Bitcoin has recently lost its 50-week moving average, and we need to be talking about what's likely to be happening next. Last cycle, when we actually lost this moving average, we came for a retest before actually going in towards a bear market. So we need to be talking about the probabilities of us actually retesting the 50-week moving average and the 50-week exponential moving average band, and if we're going to be going towards the downside after. And we also need to be talking about what's likely going to be happening in the coming week, since the short term is looking very bearish, and we need to be discovering what's likely to be happening next. So I have a lot of charts and I have a lot of data pieces actually ready for you guys. We're going to be looking at the medium term and the longer term also. So make sure to be watching till the end. And we're also going to be covering the Ethereum charts too. And we're also going to be looking at a recent news story that's actually likely going to be taking effect next week. That's going to be the main talking point of the week. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's go straight away into this banger. Bow. So in that short term, you can see that we've recently been moving towards the downside, and we're looking like we're about to break this trend line towards the downside, and we need to be talking about why that is. You can see you can view it as a bear flag, and you can also view it as a symmetrical triangle alongside the ascending triangle. But it all points towards one thing, is the fact that Bitcoin has been consolidating after a previous move down, and it's likely we're going to be getting some continuation over there. And the reason for this is exactly the fact that we have the BOJ potentially hiking rates, and we actually had the Nikkei reporting that there's going to be a rate hike next week. So we need to be actually keeping this in mind, since we had the bond yield actually spiking. And essentially this trade that's actually taking place is the fact that US investors and investors globally have been taking cheap debt from Japan at almost zero interest rates and reinvesting that into the US market and of course crypto markets and other asset classes. And essentially when the BOJ actually hike rates, it's going to be costing them a lot more to actually have that investment and that loan from the BOJ, and essentially that's going to be a trade that's not going to be profitable for them anymore, since they're going to have to pay a bit more in terms of interest. So this trade actually unwinds and they actually start to sell their US assets, their crypto assets and other asset classes that they hold, leading to markets coming down so that they can actually refinance their debt. So essentially, if we actually get this rate hike, it can actually cause Bitcoin to actually come a bit more down in the short term. But of course, I do think that a lot of it is already priced in. So potentially we can be consolidating a little bit more. And it's possible that Bitcoin can actually move towards the upside. But in my opinion, just looking at the short-term price actions, it looks like it's possible we can actually sweep this low, and then we can actually move towards the upside after. So of course, if we do get a rate hike, it may cause Bitcoin to actually continue its downward trajectory, since we've actually been finding a hard time actually breaking above the downward sloping trend line, as you can see over here. And you can see that we've actually had some resistance as well, some horizontal resistance. So of course, this is not looking that good for Bitcoin, and we actually need to be looking at this chart also, where we also have the FOMC rate cut. And the previous two times we had the rate cut with a pump in towards that decision, we've actually seen Bitcoin actually sell off the past few times. And this time it looks like it's actually playing out again. So I'm not going to be expecting any different. We can also look in towards this chart, which has the yearly open and the monthly open actually plotted on the chart over there. So you can see that the yearly open in blue has been significant resistance for Bitcoin, and we've not been able to actually break above. So it looks like we're losing the monthly open now. And if we continue to actually move towards the downside below this 89,500 level in specific, I do think that it's likely Bitcoin can actually trade towards the downside. And this is where I'll be looking for some sort of trade if we can actually start to show some signs of strength at the bottom there, and then around the 81k region. That's where we're going to be looking for a trade in towards the 50-week moving average. And I think that the 50-week moving average is an interesting level. So if I actually zoom out on a daily time frame, you can see that the 50-week moving average is going to be another significant resistance point where we can actually look for a short position, like you can see by my tools over there, since every time we actually lost the 50-week moving average shown by this chart, we can see that when we retest it, we've actually come in towards a bear market. So I do think if we're actually moving towards the 50-week moving average, we're actually going to be moving towards the downside. And this band is not only the 50-week moving average, it's a 50-week exponential moving average, giving us a little bit of a range there. So you can see it goes from 99k up until 102k. So I think that region over there is going to be key for us, and it's going to be a region where we can actually place a lot of sell orders. So of course we can have an initial one right at the 50-week moving average over here. So you can see if I extend it, that will be in and around 102. And if we start to actually, breach 99 and 102, then we can actually look at another one in and around 110k. And that's going to be the region where I do expect Bitcoin to actually have some resistance and for us to actually move in towards a new bear market. So if you want to be joining me in that trade and you want to be trading for yourself, Make sure to click that first link down below for LBank. LBank's actually offering the community $100 once you do sign up and a 50% deposit bonus. And on top of that, on your first trade, you can be getting a generous refund of up to $5,000. So if you do actually lose that trade, you can get a refund up to 5K, which is absolutely amazing. And if you click that first link down below, it will actually take you to this page over here. And this is where you have all the information, and this is where you can actually sign up. So you can see you have about 10 days to claim this amazing deal. You can see that if you actually scroll down, these are the amounts that you can be getting once you do deposit. So if you deposit $5,000, you're going to be getting $2,500 on top as a trading bonus. So in my opinion, that's an amazing deal right there. You get $100 once you do sign up. You can be getting a 50% deposit bonus up to $2,500 over there. And of course, you can be getting a generous refund of $5,000 on your trading position. Also, if you want to be joining my free trading community, make sure to check that second link down below. I'm going to be dropping a lot of game, a lot of alpha, and a lot of trading positions over there. So make sure to be checking that second link down below. And this group is not going to be free forever. I'm going to be making it private soon. So make sure to be joining up once you do have the opportunity. Since the group is free right now, you can be joining using that second link down below. Now looking at the USDT dominance, it is looking likely that we can be repeating 2022, where we move towards the upside aggressively, but we are trading at the range highs. And the last time in 2022 when we hit the range highs, you can actually see closely we actually had a rejection, which actually led to a relief rally before we actually had that massive spike towards the upside, leading in towards a bear market. So I do think that if we start to reject over here, we can see a little bit of a bounce for Bitcoin. And what that may look like in a short term is the fact that we come down, we grab the liquidity towards the downside, sweeping this low over here, and then we're going to be moving towards the upside in towards the 50-week moving average. And that's where you're going to see USDT dominance come down a little bit before you have that huge spike. So in my opinion, it's looking likely that we can be repeating history here if we get a slight rejection before a massive push. So that's one thing to be bearing in mind. And of course, you can actually look at Christmas Eve on previous years compared to this year. And you can see both in 2023 and 2024, we had a slight dump from Christmas Eve, and then we had a massive move towards the upside. And we're approaching that date now. So if next week is bearish and we start to move down already, it's looking likely that once we actually form that bottom and we potentially sweep the low, it's likely we can continue towards the upside again and have a nice relief rally after Christmas. On that weekly time frame, we're having a stochastic oversold also, so it's possible that if we do come down a little bit, we can get a relief rally in towards that 50-week moving average again, and that's where we're going to be topping out. But in that monthly time frame, I do think that Bitcoin is actually losing momentum. So even if we do get a slight relief rally, I do expect in the coming months we're going to be seeing a massive move towards the downside, since the MACD is cross bearish and it's indicating that momentum is going to be towards the downside in the coming few months. So in my opinion, that's what's going to be happening in the longer time frames. And of course, next year I do expect us to have a negative year. So in the coming months, I do expect us to be coming down, not only from a technical standpoint, but also a historical standpoint, where to every midterm year, we do have Bitcoin having double-digit negative annual returns. So this is not going to be any different in 2026, in my opinion, and I do think we can come down. We can actually compare 2026 to 2019, though, where we did have quantitative tightening actually ending, and then we had a move towards the downside. And I do think that this year is going to be the same, where we do have a move towards the downside first before a parabolic bull market. But I do think after we actually form a bottom in 2026, the following years are going to be massively bullish. So long term, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. But in the medium time frames, I am actually quite cautious, since I do think we're going to be due for a big correction. So looking at Ethereum, we bounced from this support level over here, and it's looking like the bounce is actually losing steam, since we're actually moving towards the downside in the short term, and it's looking like we're forming the same bear flag as Bitcoin. So it is possible we can be coming down for Ethereum back in towards the support level, where maybe we can find some support and maybe we can form a double bottom over there. So it's looking possible that Ethereum can actually be coming down and then maybe taking this low before we actually have that relief rally in towards the bull market support band, as you can see by this chart. So if we do come down, I do think that the next stop, if we do get a relief rally, will be that bull market support band, where we can be deciding if that's going to be the top for Ethereum before we actually move in towards that bear market. So this is one thing to be noting. But of course, we are testing this 50-week moving average right now, and it looks like if we can't hold that, Ethereum is definitely going to be coming a little bit lower. So of course, this does depend on the news for the next week. And of course, if the BOJ is going to be hiking rates, we can be seeing some jitters in the market and sell-off continue. So this is one thing to actually be paying attention to in that medium time frame, especially since we've actually seen historically after a US rate cut, we've actually seen a sell-off. So that'll be it for me. Make sure to be following me on X to be staying up to date with all my updates, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a blessed rest of your day. Peace, guys. See ya. Bye bye.